All right, let's dive in. Today, we've got a story that I think is going to feel really familiar to any small shop owner out there. It's a story about chaos, but also about control and the one simple tool that can totally change the game. So let's start with this. This is a quote from a real shop owner, Hamid Rajani. And what he said was, "My business is finished." I mean, that's not just frustration, right? That is the sound of pure despair. It's a guy who feels like he's losing a battle he's poured his whole life into. And that one sentence, that's where our story begins. So what was Hamid's problem, really? Well, it boils down to this one really powerful image. He was on a ship without a compass. I mean, he was working incredibly hard, rowing like crazy, but he was just lost, totally lost, in the day-to-day chaos of his own business. Think about it. For 6 years, Hamid poured his heart and soul into this little wholesale shop. But instead of seeing the rewards, he felt like he was drowning. You can just picture it, right? Boxes piled high, labels all faded, and these notebooks filled with scribbled numbers that they just didn't add up. The very business he'd built with his own two hands was now completely overwhelming him. And this is where the chaos starts to have a real, tangible cost. Look at this scenario. A customer comes in, wants to make a big purchase, 12 cartons of washing powder. Hamid, he thinks, yeah, for sure I have those. But then he goes to look, and he can only find 4. His records, or really his lack of records, completely failed him. And just like that, the customer walks. That's a lost sale, and you know what? It's probably a lost customer for good. And it didn't stop there. It gets worse. He once reordered this huge batch of cooking oil, spending a ton of money, only to discover later that he already had a whole stash of it hidden in the back that he'd completely forgotten about. So now, the cash he desperately needed for rent? Yeah, it's just sitting on a shelf, locked up in product he didn't even need to buy. Ouch. Okay, this slide really just nails the core of the problem. You see, Hamid was trying to run a 2024 business with like a 1994 system. He had a pen and a notebook. But the reality today, it's all about instant demand, complex supply chains. You just can't keep up with that manually. He was basically relying on prayer when what he really needed was cold, hard data. So, okay, how do you even begin to fix something like this? Well, it all starts with figuring out the real root of the problem. And for Hamid, that big aha moment came, believe it or not, from a visit from an old friend. So his friend, Farhan, he shows up and he just listens as Hamid lays out all of his problems, all his stress. And then Farhan cuts through all that noise with one simple, but honestly devastatingly sharp question. He just looks at him and asks, "Hamid, right now, how many units of cooking oil do you have in this store?" And Hamid's answer, it revealed everything. Sijui vizuri, I don't know exactly. And boom, right there. That single admission, that total lack of visibility, that was the source of every single one of his problems. He wasn't running a business. He was running a guessing game. And let me tell you, guessing in business is an expensive game to play. And this is when Farhan drops the analogy that just changes everything for Hamid. He tells him, look, a business without a system is like a ship without a compass. You're rowing as hard as you can, man, you're working yourself to the bone, but you have no idea where you are, where you've been, or where you're even going. You're just adrift. Of course, Hamid probably pointed to his trusty notebook, right? But Farhan just breaks it down for him. Look, notebooks get lost. They don't send you an alert when you're low on your best-selling item. They can't calculate your profit for you on the spot. And what happens when the power goes out? Well, then it's just a useless piece of paper in the dark. Okay, so knowing the problem is one thing, right? That's only half the battle. The next step was finding a solution, something modern, something powerful, but, and this is the most important part, something that was actually accessible for a guy like Hamid. And the solution was an app, specifically an app called fizz.co.tz. Farhan showed him that this wasn't some, super complicated piece of software made for a big corporation overseas. No, this was a system built for Tanzanian businesses, designed to handle the real-world challenges they face every single day. And the best part? The features directly attack every single one of the notebook's failures. The interface? Simple. And in Swahili. Power cut? No problem, it works offline and syncs up later. Too hard to learn? Nope. It's so easy you could train a new assistant on it in just one afternoon. This is what a modern compass for a business looks like. And Farhan had the proof because he was using it himself. He told Hamid, Listen, within the first week of using this, I discovered I was over-ordering 3 products that were barely even selling, and I was under-ordering 2 things that were just flying off the shelves. The data, right there on his phone, immediately showed him how to be more profitable. So you're probably thinking, a tool this powerful must cost a fortune, right? Get this, it costs 500 shillings. Per day. That's it. To put that into perspective for you, that's less than a chapati and a juice. Think about that. The cost of all his guessing was costing him thousands, maybe tens of thousands. The cost of getting clarity was next to nothing. And this, right here, is the turning point in the story. Armed with this new tool and a whole new way of thinking, Hamid finally starts his journey from total chaos to total control. And the amazing thing is, this transformation didn't take months. It took days. On day 1, he downloads the app. By day 3, his whole inventory is logged. And by day 4, for the first time in years, he opens up a dashboard and feels clarity. And then, on day 5, a customer asks for washing powder. Does he guess? Nope. He pulls out his phone, checks his stock, and confidently says, I have 9 cartons. Just like that, the cycle of chaos was broken. So let's fast forward 6 months. The change isn't just on his phone anymore. You can actually see it when you walk into a shop. The shelves are organized, every single item is tracked, and his profits, they're growing. Not because of some magic trick, but because he finally stopped the bleeding. He plugged all those little holes that were draining his business dry. And that brings us right back to that compass idea, doesn't it? For 6 years, Hamid had been rowing as hard as any human possibly could. But now, with the right system in his hand, he finally had his compass. For the first time, he wasn't just working in his business, he was navigating it. So all of this leaves us with one last really important question for you to think about. Hamid's compass was a pen, a notebook, and a prayer. He found a modern tool that gave him true clarity. So now it's time to look at your own operation, your own project, your own business, whatever it is, and ask yourself, what compass are you using?